Well, hey everyone, it's Michael Osinski.
And it's also Tyler Esselman.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11 is our podcast where each week we invite somebody into our virtual living room to make their case for what they believe is a perfect album.
So perfect that 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
Season 9, off to a rollicking start, one might say.
I would say
real
that.
Bangers so far, huh?
Yeah, I do. I will say, though, I am now officially in Philadelphia, and yes. I will have a better setup eventually. Like lighting, I don't have my cool lighting behind me.
So you can say your bisexual lighting.
I don't have my bisexual. To quote a former guest Matt Risby, I don't have my bisexual lighting behind me. But I'm working on it.
Don't worry, Matt. We're getting it. We're getting there. It just takes a little bit of time to set up. So happy to have you all back for season 9. We're having a great time doing this whole video thing still. The novelty will wear off eventually, but it still hasn't for me. But I'm really excited about today's album and today's guest. We have something that maybe we'll have some generational talk and some different perspectives on this album based on how we came to know it. Right, Michael?
Yeah, and we're also going to make a former guest quite happy because if I'm not mistaken, one of our former guests wanted to talk about this artist at some point. So,
yes, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, Michael, who are we talking to today?
We are talking to Paul Oakley Stovall. Paul is a Tony Award-winning and Olivier-nominated producer. He played George Washington in the first national tour of Hamilton for almost half a decade. He directed and co-adapted the world premiere adaptation of James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room to a twice-extended acclaimed run. And his play Immediate Family, directed by Phylicia Rashad, just closed an extended run at the Booth Playhouse. He's a Chicagoan through and through, speaks pretty good Swedish, loves to travel, and plays a lot of tennis. Paul, welcome to our virtual living room.
I'm gonna mega you guys. Is it mega? Is that the word I use?
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, you could
mega.
Why not?
Well, you just want to say Phylicia Rashad, not Felicia.
Okay, thank you. No,
because then you sound like a real. Then you sound like a real. You know, you're a real one if you know that. Everybody says Felicia. It's Felicia.
Okay,
because her nickname is Lish.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you're getting all the inside scoop.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, Phylicia Rashad, if you're listening, I deeply apologize. I'm a huge fan of you.
We love you.
I'm sad I did not get to see you in August Osage County on Broadway when I heard that was happening. Yeah. Anyway,
onward with the album. The thing.
Well, we should call out because our mutual friend was also a guest on the pod, and Chrissy Vander Walker is the one that introduced us, and so glad she did. We're very excited to have you on today. Love the lake behind you. I miss old Lake Michigan.
For everyone who thinks I'm in Saint-Tropez, it's Lake Michigan.
Chicago doesn't get better than early September, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Paul, we invited you here, and we invited you here specifically to nominate an album, and we're curious, just for those of us who chose not to read the title of this episode when they started playing it, would you please tell our listeners, what album hath thou brought before the tribunal today?
The perfect album, and it is not to be disputed, is by the band Sade, led by Helen Sade Adu, and the album is Promise, their second album. It just is.
It just is. Right? Yeah, and so you implied before we got on the pod that maybe we were children who may not have known Sade, and I gotta say,
such baby faces, so you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah,
you're welcome.
I've started to love sunscreen. In my time, in my 30s, it's more pleasurable to do now.
You're in your 30s.
I am, yes.
My God. Okay.
But I do have great love for Sade, and I think this is I think it's funny how certain artists kind of become soundtracks of different parts of your life. And Sade has a very transportative kind of quality for me. So I'm excited to talk about this one. And the second one was one I was not very familiar with before, from top to bottom. Michael, was this Was this your kind of Sade entry point, or where did Sade live for you before this?
I mean, honestly, it was sort of like a few songs off of each album are the ones. I mean, like, obviously, like Smooth Operator, which also did not realize was on their first album. Like, that's, I mean, a hell of a way to get started.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed prepping for this episode because I feel like there's a tendency for people to put Sade's music in like a couple categories. One being the CVS/Walgreens category.
Yeah.
The other being just sort of like a chance to laugh at smooth jazz in some ways.
Sure.
Like listening to this, and also, well, I don't want to get too far into it.
Yeah, we're not getting too deep.
When I first started listening to this album, I had never heard "Is It a Crime," and I think it's a crime. Well, yeah. Well, first of all, it's a crime that I hadn't heard it yet, but it's also a crime that's not the one that a lot more people know, because I feel like that really showcases her voice in a way that a lot of the other singles don't do as much.
Well, and her courage as a poet.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know you said there's not going to be any dispute about whether this is, but our whole job is to have you build your case here. But for those of our listeners and viewers who may not be familiar with Sade the band, we do have a convenient segment to get them up to speed on just a little bit of what Sade is all about and the context of this album. Michael, what's that segment called?
That segment is called The Beginner's Guide to Sade's Promise in 60 Seconds. And who's doing it this week?
It's me, and I'm going to be. I've written a little blurb that should fit into 60 seconds to enlighten our listeners, and you get to assess how I do, Paul. You get to grade me in whatever terms you see fit.
Oh, good, because I was going to, but I get to actually publicly do it.
I want you to. We crave it. We crave feedback. We're very directable. So, okay, I'm ready. Michael, do you have the timer ready?
Oh, I got the timer ready.
Okay, you call it.
Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Listen, yes, Sade is a person, but Sade is also a band, okay? Sade the band is indeed fronted by the eponymous Sade Adu, and backed by the band Sweetback, aka Stuart Matthewman, Paul Denman, and Andrew Hale. The band formed as an offshoot of the Latin soul band Pride in London in 1982. Adu and Matthewman struck up a songwriting partnership and started testing out their own tunes by opening for Pride before deciding to strike out on their own, taking Denman and drummer Paul Cook with them. Cook left, Hale joined, and their debut full-length Diamond Life grooved into the airwaves in July 1984. Featuring all-timer Sade tracks including Your Love is King and Smooth Operator, Diamond Life welcomed listeners into the soulful pop world Adu and Co. would come to typify for the rest of the 80s and beyond. Their sophomore effort, Promise, did what their debut didn't manage to and peaked at number 1 on both sides of the Atlantic. Though Robert Christgau was unenthused, as he is wont to be, Promise was praised for its emotional progression from their debut, expertly weaving, damn it. Ooh. Okay. I'm going to put there, I talk about the quiet storm. Yeah. Talk about the quiet storm sensibility with lyrics rich with deeply relatable meditations on love, loss, friendship, and identity. Suffice it to say, this band is king. That's where I was going. Just kind of didn't get all the way there.
All right, Paul. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna handle this? Because you got to hear some stuff that came after the 60 seconds. Are we grading on a curve?
No, damn it.
Well, there's no curve. It's only one student.
It's true.
So true.
You know. Listen, I'm going to give you a solid B-.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not terrible. It's not terrible. That's fine. Unless you're one of those kids with parents that have, impossible expectations of you. But so B-, I'm going to give you. What I'm going to say is, I wanted more of it to come from your heart.
Sure. I get that.
That's
yeah.
all.
Well,
That's all really I want to say, because I agree with everything you said. But I would love to have heard. I would love to have felt that you had actually spent. I don't know how much time you spent with these two records, the first and the second. But
yeah.
Well, we'll get there. Job. Good job, Tyler.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. All right. Well, as such.
God.
Let's start with you then. So we like to kind of kick this off in our in our effort to hear why this album is perfect, we want to know why you have a relationship with it. And so we first like to ask kind of like, what is your relationship with music writ large as a person?
I'm a songwriter, and I had a band called Into the Green that was pretty hot on the Chicago scene when I was in college. And, you know, we played Lion's Den, we played Martyrs, we played all the spots.
Nice.
And my vibe was very Sade, Sting, and Stevie Wonder, give you a ride over to Joni Mitchell's after party, and everybody's jamming in the living room acoustically.
Yeah.
So that was the vibe of my sound. And Sade was at the forefront of that, because while Madonna and Cyndi Lauper and even Wham, you know, George Michael's early band Wham, Whitney Houston, Aretha, Run DMC, LL Cool J, Tina Turner was starting to make a comeback, DeBarge. Sade, to me, felt like a slam poet who was just singing. Mm-hmm. And who had something very personal to say. Everyone else was, I felt like, it was good music. Hey, 80s, 90s songwriting was, you know, the best. But she kind of didn't care. You know, she very famously, in the middle of a concert, was singing Your Love is King. Promise had been released, and she was sort of touring to support that record while singing from Diamond Life. She had a complete breakdown because Your Love is King is about the guy that she broke up with, and she left the stage and the concert was done.
Wow.
Now, she wasn't some big famous Madonna. She wasn't someone who could do that and it would hit the papers and be like, oh, how cool. She could have ended her entire career by doing that. But she couldn't sing the song. She couldn't get through it. And she left the stage, and that was the end of that.
Wow.
And I thought that was as dope as you want to ever be.
Yeah.
That was the James Baldwin move, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Totally.
It was cold. It was cold-blooded. And yeah, they ran off and tried to get her to come on and finish, and she was like, I can't. My heart is broken.
Yeah.
How dare you ask me to do that? So for me, she was the original gangster, and that's why I related to her. Not because I was that, but because I aimed to be that.
And were you making music from an early age? Was this something that you've always done?
Yeah. I had just begun doing it with a band, but I had always been writing music. Not knowing that I was headed towards playwriting, but I had always been writing music, yeah. It just made me the type of artist who would stick to my guns. Mm-hmm. But a person like Sade, who has the guts to only come out with a record every 10 years, not every 3 years because the record company tells her to.
Right.
But she's like, I'm not putting out a record unless I have something to say. Mm-hmm. I got to go live some life, you know?
I can respect that. I feel like there's so much pressure for artists of all, genres and all like types. Like once you make something, to keep making it just because once you become a hit in some way, or you've appealed to a specific group of people, that like capitalism takes over and says, well, you got to keep making that thing, even though you might not like feel it within you to want to make something. And that's, I mean, I don't know about both of you, but that's usually the draw of when I make art. That's where it comes from first. So
listen, time is on our side, and I move away from Sade for a moment to talk to all artists. Time is on your side. The time you spend living life that feeds your creative spirit, that counts. That's not, it's not like you're out there doing nothing. So I really applaud her for living life and not putting out another record till she's got something to say.
Mm. So talk a little bit about young Paul in Chicago. So that's where you're from, huh? Like where did you first encounter music before you were making it yourself? Was it in church? Was it in your family home? What was that like?
It was in my parents' basement. Oh, young closeted Paul. He was down in his parents' basement, singing "Best of My Love," the emotion, whoa, whoa, you got the best of my, and trying to hit the highest, just doing the thing. And the Silvers, please look up the Silvers. People out there, they had some great early records before the Jackson 5, around that time of the Jackson 5. But to me, they had a lot more going on in their records. The Sylvers, Sylvers.
I might have seen them referenced in the kind of the prep for this, yeah.
Yeah, Foster Sylvers was who I wanted to be. And so it was in my parents' basement. Creating concerts, for sure. Singing at the top of my lungs. Not thinking that, of course, as I got older like now, thinking, of course my mother heard me down there. Of course, thinking I was just in my own world.
Yeah.
So Minnie Riperton, those singers took me places that they helped me mature. I was always drawn to the poets, the Joni Mitchells, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember the exact moment that you discovered Sade, and particularly this album?
I discovered Sade, and you mentioned it, how she was on VH1 more than MTV. I was an MTV baby, so I remember when the flag came and the first video came, and I remember seeing her. Time of life, lover boy. I was like, who is this woman, and what is she talking about? Because every song was to make you dance. Every video was to blind you with colors and effects. And, you had to struggle to keep up with the dance moves. And there she was, standing there with her hair slicked back in a ponytail, just singing.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with her. So it was on VH1. Maybe it was on MTV, but you were right. She was quickly shipped over to VH1.
Yeah. Adult contemporary music. And then Promise was when Sweetest Taboo hit the airwaves, the video. Back then we were introduced to music through videos.
Michael's a music video devotee. That's really his.
Well, because I grew up on them. Because I would say, Paul, when I say the name Martha Quinn, do you know who I'm talking about?
Of course.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Short black Dorothy Hamill.
Yep. Yeah. Because I grew up on watching MTV as much as Sesame Street, frankly.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was our Sesame Street, right? So when you've got Madonna half naked, Cyndi Lauper with hair everywhere and crazy, and this, and Sade comes with that little brown bolero, and those just a pair of jeans, just a nice pair of tight, not even too tight, but just a nice pair of jeans, very chill, and then riding a horse on the beach, and you're like, wow. This bitch ain't worried about none of those hoes. She is not even trying to be in your lane because she doesn't even find that lane very interesting.
Yeah.
She ain't singing about like a virgin or girls want to have fun. She's saying, if I tell you now, would you keep on loving me? Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? So I was obsessed with her. That video,
Yeah. You're talking about her being a poet. I think there is a really poetic, there's a poetic obscuring that happens in her lyrics, in their lyrics. But, given that she, it really feels like it was a collaborative effort, like a truly collaborative effort between the whole band. And there's this thing where there's something just always out of sight in the lyrics. There's something always just slightly obscured that is so alluring. And it walks a line that I find fascinating, kind of like what you're talking about, where she's not talking about like a virgin. There's not this lustful quality, but there's a different kind of sexuality that I think really contrasts from a lot of the other, particularly female-led music of the time as well.
Well, that's why I think, and if I ever had the opportunity to speak to her about it one day, I'd ask, when you have a band and you wonder, like, who comes in with, I've got this riff and I want to work off of that, or does she come in with a bunch of loose papers with poetic ideas? I have the feeling that she would come in with something she wrote, whether she even had the vocal line or not.
Mm-hmm.
And she would make it work. Because there's no way you're going to tell me that she said, my love is wider than Victoria Lake, taller than the Empire State. It dives and it jumps. I can't give you more than that. Surely you want me back. You didn't come in like that doesn't because that doesn't.
You're not
fit
counting
like that.
anyone in on that.
It doesn't fit like that.
Right.
So the band starts playing. They probably listen to her just say that sentiment, and then she finds her way into it.
Mm-hmm.
And like putting a lot of herself into the music too. I mean, you mentioned a little bit with the concert. I just think about the fact that, like I read that the title of this album came from something that her father had said to her when like when he was sick, about like the promise of hope. And also that the last song, Maureen, the last song on the album, is about a friend of hers who had died.
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
She was writing very and at the end of that record, there's several. Tar Baby, she knew who that was. That was somebody in her neighborhood. Maureen, that's somebody she knew.
Yeah.
Jezebel, that's someone she knew. Or either someone she knew or someone she saw in the neighborhood. And she had a feeling about that girl and what that girl went through. Yeah. Everything is so thick with life experience. And she was smart enough to know when not to sing, like Punch Drunk. She was like, there's nothing for me to sing. Yeah. So we're going to have a whole ass instrumental track in the 80s and under the pressure of being a new pop star, because Diamond Life was, had two kind of good hits, and we were going to see where Promise landed. So not only did she say, no, we're going to have a whole song where it's you all, we're a band. I don't need to sing on everything. Yeah. Not only that, but the cover of the record, she's in a dingy blue button down, bad lighting, just sitting there. But
again, so alluring. Like there's nothing, you feel so drawn in to it.
You can't take your eyes off of it.
No, you cannot.
Absolutely.
You almost think we're being gaslit, like she's hoodwinking all of us. Like it's almost too like, yeah.
Like, oh, this is just me and my button down sitting here. Me. Whatever,
Well, what you're saying about this is kind of belies what I think is what's become the stereotype of Sade, which is this kind of Muzak label that gets put on it because of, and I don't really, the more I listen to Sade, the more I'm like, I don't really know why that is, because it's so tightly produced and it's so tightly recorded. These are really highly effective albums that are really professionally done too. Like you can tell there's a lot of care that's done with it. So what do you say to it? I don't know if you hear that kind of of narrative about Sade much, but what do you say to that kind of characterization?
I say people who aren't intelligent often like to speak loudly. So when you don't have the sensibility to understand what's happening, there are groups of people who tend to poo-poo it. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. We see that happening in our politics. We see that happening in sports. We see that happening in every aspect of our public lives and in our private lives. When someone doesn't understand where you're coming from, they like to make you feel like you don't know what's going on. Yeah. Because then they feel better about themselves. If they feel like you're the one that's generic, repetitive. Come on, you haven't taken the time to listen. Don't get me started on all her different lyrics.
Yeah, this kind of I feel like a lot of times what I found is Sade is soundtracked many different kinds of moments in my life, where there's an ability to put this album on and listen to it intentionally, but also to have it just in the background that I think works pretty much equally well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can take an edible and clean your house to Sade, and you will also, it won't stay background music for very long. You'll have a revelation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The one that I'm thinking of is actually I worked at a restaurant in high school, and then many years later during COVID, I actually worked there again, and Sade was a mainstay. Back in the kitchen, we listened to Sade all the time, and that's kind of where I first became familiar with Sade is through that kitchen. Shout out to King Edward's Chicken and Fish, just closed.
Shout out.
Yeah. Okay. Rest in peace. They stayed open a long time, and I respect that. And it was a very formative place for me. So
what did you do at the restaurant? Were you a cook or were you
everything? I cooked chicken. I made sides. I was the cashier. Met some of my best friends there. Oh. So it was like this. and we all had great taste in music. So there was my friend AJ, he was the one that first put this on. And so like I'm immediately transported back to that time of, like you're in a flow with people.
Yeah.
You're in a flow, you're in a state of like collaborative flow, working in a kitchen, handing things off, moving around people, kind of like a very physical thing. And I can feel when I listen to this music, I can feel that kind of physical element of the music itself. And then her voice kind of like cruising right in over it. You know what I mean?
Well, also every instrument is singing the song.
Yes.
So, the bass is very much, it's one of my favorite instruments, and it's very much they're all singing the same song.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing, to get on that same page. It's painfully clear to me that in studio, someone was in a different song, somebody would clock it.
Yeah.
Say,
Absolutely.
you heard a different song, replay that riff, or the drums are not quite right.
Yeah. There's trust there.
There's a lot of trust there.
Yeah, you got to be able to trust your collaborators and
to tell you the truth. And that's true friendship and collaboration.
Absolutely. Well, we've kind of talked a lot about who this band is, and we've talked about the effect the album had on you, and particularly how it was formative for you. So let's zero in on one of the songs that you believe is the standout track from the album. What would you say is the standout track from Promise?
It's personal to me. There was one I was going to say, which was more of the hit, one of the hits, but this one surrounded a huge breakup in my life, and it made me take a second look at this song, and it's called "You're Not the Man."
Well, dear YouTube viewers, if you are listening to us, or rather watching us, the way that we suggest, which is via the playlist, now you're going to get to hear that track in its entirety, and then after that, you can come on back for part 2. So give it a listen.